All right, 1 second. All right, we'll go on holding by Pirke Avos, ethics for fathers, as is known. Okay, one. Holding by Pirke Avos, ethics for fathers, as is known. We are in the second chapter, 15th Mishnah. And this is going to be part 30. There'll be part 31, 32. Right. I am sure the Mishnah said in the name of Rabbi Eliezer that the Mishnah said, honor of your fellow should be as precious to you as your own. Do not be easy to anger. Repent one day before your death. And now we're holding by the last part of the Mishnah, and that is warm yourself by the fire of the sages, but beware lest you be burned by its embers. For their bite is the bite of a fox, sting of a scorpion, hiss of a serpent. All the words are like fiery coals. All right, so I mentioned last week. Right, we spoke last week about rabbinic ordination and how I think rabbinic ordination is a little bit what do you call it? I wouldn't say overused, but I would say given a lot more credence than really it deserves in some ways. It's not all it's cut up to be, but I would say that someone if they did pass a requisite exam, there should be a certain level of respect for them. I mean, no question, but at the same time, I have to know what level of that knowledge is, and etc. But here, the Mishnah says you should warm yourself by the fire of the sages. You should have a connection, right? You should want to learn their Torah. The Gemara says, Chagiga 15a or 15b, that talks about someone who wants to learn by somebody. That person we mentioned many times. That person has to be like an angel. Has to be like an angel in their eyes. Now again, we've mentioned that it doesn't mean by any stretch that they're perfect, right? No one, nobody that is nobody's perfect over here. We have said that people can't make mistakes. Rabbis can make mistakes, etc. But again, if there is heresy that comes out of their mouth, that's a different issue, right? Then there's a mitzvah to deride them. You can make fun of them, even potentially take away their livelihood, because they take themselves away from, being part of the Jewish people. Now, I would say, just based on that, there are people that mean well. I think they do mean well. They're just, misguided by an agenda, a lot of times. And they get caught up in their own, rhetoric and the honor that they receive in different things, and takes away from them actually wanting the truth. Because there are people out there that will speak, give over classes to what people want to hear. And that's not necessarily what people need to hear, right? It's a big difference, right? So my Rabbi said many times that, a person's a rabbi of a synagogue and the congregants are not trying to drive you out, that means you're not doing your job right. Meaning, a rabbi's job is not there to make everyone feel good. They're there to inspire, right? To give over, but they have to tell it the way it is. And a lot of people are afraid to tell it, the way it is. Per person has to answer, let's say to a board of directors, right? You got to be careful. You got to be careful. A person, I'm not going to say they're going to get fired per se, but, at the end of the day, they have to answer, they have to answer to a board. So a lot of times, their hands may be tied, so to speak, because certain things, obviously, people don't want to hear. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what people want to hear. It's what they need to hear, right? So, based on that, a person says something, or let's say better, a rabbi said something, and people are very quick, very, very quick to answer up, say, oh, why'd you say this? Or why'd you say like this? Or, they're quick to say something, negative. So I'm just, learning today that a person, wants to be a leader, so to speak. They want to lead the masses, great rabbis of the generation. They have to realize they're going to get hammered. People are going to come out against them, saying this or saying that or whatever. They have to be strong, right? They have to take the good with the bad, deal with people's problems, and all kinds of craziness that, goes on in the world, etc. And Rabbi told the story, I think when the the Gitter Rabbis, and someone, came in and was telling him his woes. His wife was very sick, and she could potentially die, and he's got little kids, and so whatever, he's telling his tale of woe. So the Rebbe gave a blessing, that it should be better, should be healthy, whatever. And he's like, that's it. Like, you don't feel the pain. Don't you see what I'm going through? Right? This person came to him, right? And he said, my pain is no less than your pain. So I feel the pain just as much, if not more, than you. So, it's hard. People hear, tales of woe, livelihood issues, family issues, all kinds of things. I remember once I went to see my Rabbi late on Thursday night. I had this whatever question I need to deal with. And basically in the middle, we got two, just say pretty disgusting questions. And I was thinking to myself, like, how the person like that stay pure, pure of mind, pure of thought. So then he said, okay, what's your question? So I asked my question, sat there for a while. And they said, okay, I got, he basically threw me out. And he said, I got to go back to, prepare my drasha for Shabbos, let's prepare my sermon for Shabbos. And went back, he gave a kvetch, right? He gave a little bit of a sigh, right? And he said, okay, I got to go, because, I got to focus on, what I'm going to say over, what I'm going to say over Shabbos. He went back to learning, right? So it's like, I'm not going to say it didn't affect him. What he heard, he gave a kvetch, he gave a sigh, and he said, okay, I got to go back to learning. I mean, because if a person would take it all into heart, like, I'm not saying that they don't take things seriously, they do. But if they would take things so to heart, they die of heart attacks because of what people go through. And terrible tragedies. There are many, many tragedies people go through. Difficulties in life, like which we mentioned many times. Either, it could be livelihood issues, it could be, family issues, could be, health issues, could be, everything in between there. People have serious issues that we go through. So, people again are very quick to say something. And a lot of times, people, there are people that have a tremendous amount of knowledge. Some people have more knowledge, less knowledge, whatever. And, people expect, like, I don't know exactly what they expect. You're going to answer me now. How come you didn't answer me? How come I get this all the time. I send this email, that email, call this rabbi, that rabbi, don't answer me. Well, you don't think people are busy? I'm not saying that you should be blown off by any stretch, right? But no, people think, oh, I sent you a text. Why didn't you answer me? And you think people are busy? They don't have anything else to do but answer your text. Like, what are they going to say? The Mishna said, the world's created for me, i.e. for me and no one else. You don't think people got, other things to do? I'm not saying they shouldn't be answered, and hopefully in a timely process, but people are busy, especially before the holidays. People are busy. They're out running around and this and that. They don't have so much free time. Like I said, I've heard a number of times, how hard is it just to send a message? If you're busy doing 10 things at once, you don't always get time to do that. It only takes a few seconds. You're right, it only takes a few seconds. Some people don't have a few seconds just to do it. Yeah. Everyone's out there beck and call. It's not a question of money. It's like, if I paid you more money, you do it quicker. It's not an issue. And it's not an issue. Right? People make that mistake also. But the biggest mistake is I sent you something, answer me. First of all, certain things can be a lot more complicated. You're not going to answer on the spot. Right? Things, take time to digest. You got to think about it. Yeah, whatever. People are impatient. I get it. People want things done instantaneously. Right? And it's not fair, and it's not right, and it's not. Well, a question about what's being fair, what's being right. Someone's blowing you off, and they're not going to answer you, and they spend weeks not answering just to test your mental. That's wrong. Right? I'm not saying they have to answer you straight away. Right? Okay. After a certain amount of time, you should answer them. I'm not going to answer why people do what they do. Right? That's not what I do. I'm not going to answer that. And if people, take their time and do this, whatever, it's their fault. It's their problem. Yeah. Doesn't mean they're not infallible. They could, they can make mistakes. But people think. I'm not going to say everybody. Some people think, send you a question, answer it. Take 2 minutes, answer it. What, my question's not important? I don't deserve an answer? Someone can say something right before, let's say right before Shabbos comes in, or something like that. You think someone's going to answer it? You got to be realistic also. Again, does that mean someone should be blown off? No, I'm not saying that. Like I said, people are busy. People are busy, generally busy. Yeah. So many times people are quick to say something and they don't know the facts. But not only that, it goes further. People, or let's say there's some people think they know the facts. Hold on, just go wrong. Some people think they know the facts. Right? And a lot of times they don't. They just don't. They think they know more than they do. I've seen that plenty of times. I don't think people don't ask good questions. They can ask good questions. Right? The Mishna Pirke Avos, also says, I'm going to get there when I'm like 97, right? And that is, you got to know your place. Person has to know their place. Doesn't give you the right to say what you want, do what you want. I deserve an answer. You should get back to me in a timely manner. People should. I agree. Does that mean it always happens? No. Are people legitimately busy and not blowing you off? Yes. People are legitimately busy. There are people who understand this. Some people just don't get it. Can't help them. They don't get it. Like, it's like they own you. They own nothing. They own nothing. The fact that someone's going to help, again, this is not something that has anything to do with money. It's common courtesy. Common courtesy. One of my rabbis once told me, he's helped a lot of people, and he's a trained psychologist also, right? And he said, help somebody, right? Basically save their life in different ways. He said that's why I tried to destroy him. Right? That's the things. Literally save their lives. People can be ungrateful also. There are people also that, let's say, there are rabbis out there, plenty of them speak a lot of fluff, right? Not too much behind what they say, a lot of touchy-feely things, a lot of maybe very nice stories, okay. There are others that speak very strong, right? They speak very strong. Some people don't like people that speak so strong because it's hard, right? It's hard to hear what they have to say because sometimes they hit you right between the eyes, right? But even if they speak very strong, which again, I don't have an issue with, but even if they speak very strong, they have sources. They have sources to back it up. Right? If you have sources to back it up, very good. Now, there is something misleading, potentially misleading, that, someone could say, wow, this is the law, this is what we do. like they'll say like it's across the board. That like everyone agrees this is the law. So that's not true. Right? Sometimes not true. Sometimes there'll be a strong difference of opinion. Right? And they'll say this is how the law comes out. Like the other side doesn't matter. Right? I'll give an example. Very controversial topic. Right? We don't shy away from controversial topics, right? But a very controversial topic. Well, women wearing wigs. Yeah. Women covering their hair. So if a person wears a wig, a woman wears a wig, and it is, it's not immodest, right? It's not too long. Very good. Right? Certainly, Ashkenazic rabbis will say it's not a problem. Why? It covers the hair. A married woman has to cover her hair. Very good. Now, someone will say, but the hair looks better than her own hair. That's going to cause attraction, should be forbidden. Yeah. Now, simple argument would be, does it cover the hair? Covers the hair. You can tell. Right? You should be able to tell it's a wig. Right? So therefore what? Here is considered, the Gemara says, is licentious. A wig, again, you can have better human hair wig than their own hair. So you can say that can also be licentious. Okay. But plenty of rabbis say it's permissible as long as it's not too long. Right? And it's not immodest. Okay, good. Now, according to the majority of Sephardic rabbis, they'll say because it looks like human hair, and it looks even better than human hair, shouldn't wear wigs. Right? So many Sephardic rabbis will say it's forbidden. Right? They'll say it's forbidden. Okay. Now, based on that, does that mean in general a woman can never wear a wig? No. There are opinions that say not that way. That say you're allowed to. Not as long as it's modest. But now we get into another problem. So that's the issue. Right? That is the main, that's the main issue. But there's another, there's another issue here. The other issue is that you have, the human hair for wigs comes from India. And a lot of that hair is brought to a shrine or whatever, and they, it's considered idolatry. So now that hair that a woman wears, it comes from India. It's a problem. It's been a problem for many, many years. Many, many years. Now, seemingly, there are a number of biblical authorities that will say they've never, the majority of wigs that have human hair come from India. It's very problematic today. Very, very problematic for a woman to wear a wig that's human hair. If it's synthetic and it looks like a mop, okay, but it's synthetic. Synthetic's not a problem, right? So even with the disagreements between Sephardic rabbis and Ashkenazic rabbis, this is a different problem. This is a different problem. We're not saying, it's totally forbidden to wear wigs ever. And no one ever said you're allowed to wear a wig. That's not true. That 100% is not true. Now, today it's more of a problem. It's much more of a problem because a lot of the hair, again, that women are using to make these wigs comes from India. And a lot of that hair is worshipped. And it's brought to one of these places, and it's put in front of the shrine or whatever it is. It's idolatry. That's a problem. That's a different issue, though. Right? If you didn't have, let's say you didn't have that issue. Let's say if you didn't have that issue, you go back to the original disagreement. That human hair looks much better. Wigs of human hair look better than their own hair. Okay. But not everyone holds it's forbidden. Not everyone, even in the Sephardic community, holds it's forbidden. Some do. Right? A number of rabbis hold it's forbidden. Okay. Not everybody does. You might hear some people say, everybody holds it's forbidden. It's not true. That's misleading. Now, I understand why. They want to say this is the opinion. This is how we hold and whatever, but it's not true. There's a difference of opinion over here. Now, if I have a problem with wigs today that the hair is coming from India, that's a real problem. That, according to everybody's a real problem. Yeah. But I'm saying, if you didn't have that problem, like a difference of opinion. Difference of opinion. Like someone said, when my Rabbi went on to the base and became a judge, a rabbinic court judge in the Eidah Haredis in Jerusalem. So, I heard a lot of people say, oh, his wife and his kids didn't wear shaitels. Wasn't true. Right? His daughters wore shaitels, wore wigs. Yeah. I can tell you firsthand, seen it. So he holds it's permissible. Other rabbis hold it's permissible as long as they're not too long. If they're too long, then it's immodest. Okay. Right? So he held that. Moshe Feinstein held that. Rabbi Yosef held that. Shlomo Auerbach, blessed memory, held that. All, many, many great Ashkenazim poskim, rabbinic decisors held it was permissible. As long as it's not immodest. No offense to, the great the rabbis of Sephardic tradition that hold that it's forbidden. Okay. Right? I don't have an issue with that. But there are plenty of Ashkenazim on the side say it's okay. It's not a question, whose rabbi is greater, this, that. We're talking about Torah giants here. That's what we're talking about. I'm not talking about small fry. I'm talking about big, big rabbis here. You have them both sides. Very good. But to come and say nobody holds that's permissible, that's not true. That's misleading. That for sure is misleading. Right? Now, based on that, as we mentioned, there are rabbis that speak very strong, and if a person can't listen to them, don't listen to them. They have sources to back them up. Very good. Very good. If they have their sources, okay. You don't have to necessarily agree with them. Per se, you don't have to like what they say. Doesn't mean what they say isn't necessarily valid. The only question is, is that what we hold? Is that what the majority holds, or not? So, so I would tell people, if someone speaks very strong and they make maybe what it sounds like outlandish comments, really outlandish comments, you have to see, is what they say true? If they got sources to back it up, very good. Now, could we say maybe those sources aren't good and we have reasons against them? Whatever. It depends, it depends on the issue. Right? Most people that I've heard speak very strong, I don't have an issue with what they say. I know where they're coming from. Yeah. And sometimes people have to hear certain things that are a bit shocking, which they don't want to hear. So I would tell people, in such a case, if you can't handle it, don't listen to them. No one says you got an obligation to listen to them. I had somebody tell me, certain people speak very strong about heaven and hell. Okay, I don't have an issue with that. Scare people, very good. Get them to repent, very good. I don't have an issue with that. And regardless of whether a person does a certain sin, there's a certain level of hell or not, and how they can get out of it. Okay, it's a good thing for people to know. In general, I would say, yeah. To know the severity. I was just learning something. My Rabbi brought down, this week's parsha mentioned about Gaiva, right, being conceited. So he says, if a person doesn't have pure, he was talking about Moses being the most humble of all people, right? When it came to speaking Lashon Hara against him, that Miriam spoke against him, etc. about the wife, the Cushite wife, that Cushite wife that he took, Zipporah, whatever. And anyway, it was Lashon Hara, and should be outside the camp 7 days. So Miriam was talking about whatever, it's an unbelievable thing. It's talking about that Moses is the most humble of all people. Right? There was nobody more humble than Moses himself. So he brought down that, if someone doesn't have real humility, like real humility, that everything that comes to them, they don't deserve. I'm not saying you have to feel like a piece of dirt, but if a person has gaiva, which is the opposite of humility, person is conceited, he says that to get in the next world, they get in the next world, they could eat up a lot of their mitzvahs in this world and not have a very big portion of the next world. Why? Because they think, because they're not doing what they're doing for the sake of heaven. They're doing it to look good, and they have a certain level, let's say a certain level of being conceited, right? Of gaiva, which the Orchos Tzaddikim, the ways of the righteous, and the gate of being conceited, gate of gaiva, he says that that's the root of all bad character traits. He says that could eat up a person's portion of the world to come. Not having proper humility. Proper humility means nothing's coming to me. Yeah, I don't deserve anything. Again, you have to function, you have to have self-esteem, very good, right? But essentially, nothing's coming to you. Because we saw in the Mishna before, right? We mentioned a number of times, right? We mentioned a number of times that what? And a person's going to say, that the Mishna Pirke Avos says, you learned a lot of Torah, you think you're God's gift to the world, but that's what you're created to do. So why are you going to be a big bald guy? But why are you going to think you're God's gift to the world? You're created to learn Torah. That's your obligation. But you shouldn't think anything more than that. That's what you're supposed to do. I'm going to think you got a chip on your shoulder, you're better than others. What distinguishes a Jew from a non-Jew? So Torah tells me at the end of the book of Leviticus, Torah says, I took you out of the land of Egypt to distinguish between you and everybody else. I made you a great nation. I made you the chosen nation. God chose them, and we chose the Jews, and we chose God. Very good. So even if that's true, the only thing that distinguishes Jews from non-Jews is what? It's the Torah that we keep. That's what distinguishes Jews from non-Jews, right? That is our obligation. Keep Torah the way it needs to be. That's it. And that's it. So, person's going to think, oh, look, learned a lot of Torah. Again, as we always say, maybe a person learned a lot. Maybe they're holding somewhere in the world. But, look at this world today. This world's a cesspool, right? This world's like Sodom, if not worse. Right? So, on the one hand, a person can say, learned a lot of Torah, very good, but that's what you're created to do. So, why do you think you're so good? Why do you think you're God's gift to the world? Right? It shouldn't matter. Shouldn't matter. That's what you're created to do. Okay. Even if that's what you're created to do. Right? That's what you're created to do. Finished. How can you be a guy with it? How can you think you're God's gift to the world? Very good. On the other hand, can you feel good about what you've done? You feel good about your learning? Yeah. Is there always room to grow? It's always room to grow. Right? On the other hand, a person, we could say, you learned a lot and very good. And like an 18-year-old kid told me many years ago, I'm holding better than most of world Jewry, 95% of world Jewry, so you got to cut me some slack. And I'm like, what if God thinks you have greater potential? If God thinks you have greater potential, it doesn't matter what the rest of the world's doing. Right? But what's the bottom line? I'm holding better than 95% of world Jewry. Yeah, so what? Let's say that's true. Let's say I would agree. Right? I tend to doubt it. But let's say I'd be in a generous mood, I would agree. Now, who in the world are you comparing yourself to? I'm holding better than 95% of world Jewry. Who's out there? People can't read Hebrew? Yeah, there's been a story earlier. Someone who miraculously survived, what happened on October 7th. And, they were surrounded, by these thugs, pigs, whatever you want to call them, these terrorists, and said, okay, let's, in their prayer you say before you're about to die, and no one knew what it was. This guy remembered something. He said, Sefer Torah. So they all started saying, Sefer Torah, Sefer Torah. They meant to say, so then one remembered, he said, Shema Yisrael. He's the one who survived. He said, Shema Yisrael. Now, they asked him afterward, after he survived, they asked him, do you know what comes after Shema Yisrael? He said, no. That's all he knew. It's all he remembered, Shema Yisrael. Israelis don't know more than Shema Yisrael. They don't even know what comes afterwards. I'll tell you a scariest story. I had somebody that I was going to teach in a school once a week, in a secular school in Tel Aviv. and they made him sign documents saying he's not going to try and proselytize, not going to try and make kids religious. Okay, right? That like they're so afraid someone might actually want to learn about their own heritage. Okay, so what happened? He started speaking before Shavuos, and he gave a class in front of everybody, 400 people, 400 kids. Principal was there, and he asked the class. You can't make this up. He asked the class again. This is Israel. We're not, it doesn't matter if it's Tel Aviv or not. Tel Aviv is holier than New York. In any strong Jewish community in the world outside of Israel, it's more holy. Yeah, doesn't matter what's going on there. It's more holy. But this rabbi asked them, okay, Shavuos is coming up. Who knows who wrote the book of Tehillim? Right, the book of Psalms. 400 kids there. Not one kid raises their hand. Nobody knows. Teacher has nowhere to hide. Total embarrassment. Sorry, the principal. Unbelievable embarrassment over here. No kid. 400 kids. Nobody can answer who wrote the book of Psalms. So this rabbi says, okay, I'll give everyone a hint. So I'll give you a hint. I'll help you out. David, as in David HaMelech, King David. He said, David, and they all scream out, Ben Gurion. You think David Ben Gurion wrote the book of Psalms? The heretic that he was? Even though, you visit his house, they still preserved his house or whatever. He's got a set of Talmud, right, in his bookcase. I don't know if he ever opened it. Whatever. David Ben Gurion wrote the book of Psalms? You gotta be kidding. That's like, is there anything worse than being an ignoramus? That's an ignoramus. Total ignoramus. Because it's not their fault. They've been brainwashed. You're right. And it's really, I'm not saying they came from Russia or other places. Israeli, born Israeli. Doesn't know who wrote the book of Psalms? It's kind of depressing. Think about it. Right? So this guy got saved. He said Shema Yisrael, but they asked him afterwards, "Do you know how the rest of the prayer goes?" He said, "No." He only knew those two words. He only knew Shema Yisrael. Didn't know anything else. Right? It's kind of crazy. That's how far ignorance goes. Now, if you tell me a person grew up in the middle of nowhere, Timbuktu somewhere, I can understand. Or, a person grew up in the States. You get 90% of world Jewry doesn't know anything about anything. And that the most important question they may never ask is, I put ketchup or mustard or relish on my hot dog. They don't know anything that I can understand. Yeah. Israel and Israeli. That's how far it goes. So we're our own worst enemy, I would say, in that, in that sense. But again, a person has to be careful here. A person has to be careful because if someone has valid sources, they do have valid sources. Now, you may not like what they say. Okay. Doesn't necessarily mean the source is not valid. Right? It doesn't necessarily make them a heretic. But there are people who speak very strong. Again, I don't have an issue with it. But, if someone gets paralyzed by what they say, I had someone contact me, they say, I had this great Shabbos, they were under onus, parents are forcing them to do things, it's under onus, they have no control. This person says, yeah, I heard I'm going to fry in this, 7th, 6th, 5th level of Ganem. I'm never going to get out. So why should I keep Torah mitzvahs? Very good question. Because you have to seriously repent. I asked someone very much steeped in Kabbalah once this question. And he said, yeah, person, that's a great Shabbos on purpose. For them to repent, it's going to be very hard. According to Kabbalah. Right? I'm not a Kabbalist expert by any stretch. According to Kabbalah, this person told me very much big rabbinic scholar, very much steeped in Kabbalah, told me, yeah, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be very hard for them to get out of a certain level of hell. As the Reishis Chochmah says. Very good. Very good. But what did he ask me? He said, who's holding according to Kabbalah? Who's holding according to Kabbalah? Another great rabbi said, You know how hard it is to make someone liable today for doing something on purpose. This person's an onus. Parents forced him to do certain things. Couldn't stand up to the pressure. He's under onus. He's under onus. It's beyond his control. So this great rabbi actually had an opportunity to ask this question because, whatever, it was when one of my daughters got married, so we're waiting for the head of yeshiva to come. So I had this opportunity to ask him. I asked him this question. Yeah. So he was telling me, he said, you know how hard it is to make someone, it's like they're doing something on purpose, today, whatever, a lot of different things involved in it. So I told him, I said, I'll tell you what I answered. I told this person, whoever said it, don't listen to them. That's what I told him. And the great rabbi looked at me and said that was the right thing to say. Who needs to hear that? Again, if it's going to inspire someone like this guy said, this is inspirational and it's great, and I love hearing this great muster and this strong muster, awesome. But you're being paralyzed by it. You're not getting out of bed because of it. You won't keep Torah and mitzvahs because you're going to fry in that level of hell. How does that help you? How in the world does that help you? So I would say, again, is it good for a person to know the severity? Yeah. They have to know the severity of what they do. I agree. I think people should know that. Keep them in their place, keep them in line a little bit. Make them realize what they do has repercussions, serious repercussions. Like we said before, a person that's gaiva, person's conceited, it can take away a lot of his portion of the world to come. Could eat it up, so to speak. So, obviously my Rabbi thought it was important to bring that out, right? To show people. Because there are people that have gaiva. Well, they think that God's gift to the world because they keep Torah and mitzvahs. And a person can't think that. Because that's what you're created to do. If you're born a Jew, you have to keep it. That's your obligation. You can opt out. Anyone can opt out. No one's forced to keep it. Right? But at the end of the day, that's what you got to do. That's your obligation. Okay. So that's your obligation. Why do you think you're God's gift to the world? The Torah says, I took you out for what? I took you out of Egypt to serve me. To distinguish between between you, the Jewish people, and everybody else. That's not a question of making you better. It has nothing to do with making you better. If a Jew thinks they're better just because they're born a Jew, well, they don't really keep Torah and mitzvahs, then that's a problem. That's racism. And that's total racism. Right? I had someone once tell me that, we also believe intermarriage is bad. Yeah, their kids intermarry, they don't say anything, they welcome the non-Jewish spouse and this and that because they don't want to lose their grandkids. I get it. I said, but you're a racist. They're like, what do you mean? They're like, we believe Jews should marry Jews. I said, why? So what do you mean, why? This is really a secular Jew, maybe a little more traditional, okay, but pretty much secular Jew, right? In many ways. So I basically called them a racist. They didn't kind of like that, right? So they said, what do you mean? It's forbidden. Right? Well, they didn't say the word forbidden. They said, Jews shouldn't marry non-Jews. So I asked them why. I said, what do you mean? Jews shouldn't marry non-Jews. And I said, well, that kind of makes you racist. What do you have against non-Jews? Well, you also believe Jews shouldn't marry non-Jews. I said, you're right. They said, why do you believe Jews shouldn't marry non-Jews? You're also racist. And nothing to do with being racist. Torah says Jews can't marry non-Jews. Torah says it a number of times. You're not allowed to. So it has nothing to do with what I think. Nobody cares what I think. It's all about whether the Torah is true or not. And if the Torah says you're not allowed to marry a non-Jew, you're not allowed to marry. You're not allowed to marry a non-Jew. That's it. The Torah's racist. Torah's anti-non-Jew. Yeah. Torah's anti-pig. Torah's anti-camel. Anti-other, things we can't eat. Okay. Yeah, so we have an image problem. We may have an image problem. But if God said don't do it, you don't do it. Right? That's what we have to do. So Judaism's all about asking questions. Right? People want to ask questions, let them ask questions. There are no stupid questions. People should ask. Right? A person coming out of the church, that's the last thing. The reason they come out of the church, majority of times is because they see the lies. They totally see the lies. They start asking questions, they get nothing, right? They get nothing. But at the end of the day, what would we say? We'd say like this. We would say like this, that questions, people can ask questions, not a problem. But you have to be careful how you ask the question. Now, a statement, let's remember, a statement is not a question. If a person makes a statement and says, I think Judaism discriminates against non-Jews, you know what the answer is? Okay. Or you say, oh. And I think Judaism, discriminates totally against women. They don't let women do anything. Did they ask a question? They didn't ask a question. So the answer is, oh. Or you could say, okay. Yeah. Finally, they get a little bit fed up. Why do you keep saying oh? Because you didn't ask a question. You didn't ask a question. You made a statement. People think, oh, I got to speak about how Judaism deals with women and this and that. They didn't ask a question. I don't have to be baited into this. They didn't ask a question. We feel, we're going to answer them and this and that. Then the person comes back and says, well, if I were to ask you, does Judaism discriminate against women? What would you say? Oh, that's a question. That's a legitimate question. But, we get all caught up in what a person says and the rhetoric. We think, oh, this agenda is a question. It's not a question. They didn't ask a question. But a person has to be careful how they ask the question. That even a person's passionate about the topic, they really want it, to understand it. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. People are passionate about a lot of things. They have to be respectful. They ask it. They have to be respectful. Now, they might not always like the answer, right? Sometimes the answer is, God said so. Or, come up with an answer, whatever the answer may be. But, a person's asking a question. Let's analyze the situation. Let's analyze the situation. Person thinks that, they have a certain way they think the answer is going to come. Potential. They're asking something. Imagine someone comes to a doctor, right? A doctor in whatever the area of their expertise, right? And they ask a question, whatever the question is, based on who knows what. The doctor gives an answer like this and like this. And then what does the person come back with? Yeah, but I read this, and I read that, and I saw something else. What gives you the right to say that? Where do you get your information from? Now, I would think, I would think most doctors are going to take an affront to that. Because they spent years learning, right? We'll give them credit. Spent a lot of years learning. Okay. Now, wouldn't that make them an expert in their field, usually? I would think so. Now, it could be. Person said, yeah, I read this or I saw that. Does that have any relevance here? That's a way to ask the question. Well, but they just discovered this, or I saw this, or I saw that. That's a respectful way of asking it. But now if you come across like holier than thou, thinking you know more, say, oh, that's not true. And I say, like, why are you going to them? You're going to them for their expertise. Where they have a certain expertise in medicine, or they're a GP or whatever, general practitioner. Doesn't matter. You're going to them for expertise. You're not sitting there trying to hammer them. They're not a witch doctor, right? They're not a witch doctor over here. So in essence, you're going to them for their expertise. And now you're going to try and uproot what they say. Imagine someone read an article on physics in Wikipedia. They're gonna try and deflate and demolish Stephen Hawking, one of the great physicists of our day, because they read one article. I think that's unbelievable level of chutzpah. If a person has a legitimate question, they ask it in the right way. And they say, yeah, I read this, I heard this. Is it true? Does this have any relevance? Now, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Right? Depends what it is. Okay. But if you're coming from, you think you're an authority. Again, I've seen this many times, many, many times. A person thinks, but they have more knowledge than you. I don't think people be that chutzpah, right? Maybe they think maybe in this thing they have more knowledge. Okay, whatever. But at the end of the day, if they want to show they have knowledge, again, I don't have an issue with that. But don't you think, most people out there, that's, are giving classes, have knowledge, don't you think they have a certain level of knowledge that you don't? Probably a lot more knowledge than you don't. Probably a billion times more knowledge than you don't, give or take. Not saying a person doesn't have knowledge, right? They can have as much knowledge as they have. Yeah, but someone's been sitting learning for years and years. You're not coming close to their knowledge. You're not. It doesn't mean you can't catch them. They don't know everything, right? Plenty of people don't know everything. Okay. So when someone asks a question, the person says, yeah, I got to think about it. It's more complicated, this and that. They should feel good. It's a good question. Yeah. But if someone's been learning a long time, they have a certain level of knowledge. Our question is what they use the knowledge for, right? Does that mean they can just answer any question about Jewish law? I spoke about that, right? Spoke about that as well. But there's got to be respect for the knowledge. Doesn't mean the person is perfect. Doesn't mean they have every right answer to every right thing. They may not like the answer. Let's speak about that also. Person may not like the answer. That doesn't matter. It's not a question whether you like the answer or not. That's the answer. Right? If you went to the right person, they gave you the right answer. You need to hear and you need to do. Did I like every single answer my Rabbi gave or whatever? Did I come out smelling like a rose? Certainly not. Right? Sometimes cause more, cause other damage. But okay, he told me this is what you got to do. Right? You can't do this, you can't do that. This is what you have to do. I got hammered for it. I'm still getting hammered for it today. That hasn't gone away. Doesn't come up in conversation that much, but essentially it hasn't gone away. People still, smarting from it, over the years. So you say, oh, I didn't have sensitivity. No, he told it the way it should be. He gave it over the way he felt it. You give it over. People don't like it. What would he always say? Go eat kugel. You don't like it? Go eat kugel. That's the way it is. Not pleasant. And there are a lot of things, guess what? In my case, just use myself as an example, sometimes like I do, and in my case, what happens? Damage control. It's only a question how ticked off people are going to get. Now, so you try and give as much damage control as possible. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes people are just going to get offended. It's nothing to do. Yeah, I've been in a number of situations. It's just a question how much you're going to get yelled at. Sometimes more, sometimes less. What are you going to do? Something to do. Do whatever you can. If there's a leniency, I can rely on it, whatever. Okay. If there's no way to rely on it, then what do? What in the world? There's certain things you can't do. People are going to get offended, jump up and down. I have rights. It doesn't matter. There are certain things, there are red lines you can't go past. And you can't do it. There are no leniencies. Someone said, come on, can't you go to this wedding? Since the marriage. Can't you find some sort of leniency? No, there was no leniency. We said, more than 30 years ago. Or 30 years ago, anyone here get, into marriage, we're not coming to the wedding. Don't expect us to come to the wedding. Period. We set it up from the very beginning. Now all of a sudden you're going to ask a question, right? 20 years later, 15 years later, can't you find the leniency? We told you. Did we come out, did I come out smelling like a rose? No. They still going to be offended by it? Sure. What can you do? You can't go to an intermarriage. You represent Torah. How can you go to it's the worst thing you can do. One of the worst things you can do. Go to someone intermarries, give your stamp of approval. I remember told the story before. I saw a friend of mine I went to yeshiva with on the plane coming back to Israel. So we're talking. So I said, oh, what are you doing, in America? I said, oh, I went to a wedding. My sister got married. So like, oh, Mazel Tov. He goes, well, not exactly. She married a non-Jew. So I said, how could you go? I asked him, how could you go to the wedding? Halachically speaking, how could you go? So he said, everybody knew I was there on the protest. I said, really? I said, they saw you eat your kosher food on the protest. They saw you doing the horror on the protest. I said, how exactly did they see that? How did they see that? Yeah, if you represent Torah, how could you go? You can't. That person who went to married, it was a guy, let's say, you can't call him up to the Torah and have him make the blessing. Asher b'chabanu mikol amim. You chose me from amongst the nations. You intermarried. That's a blessing in vain. It's a blessing in vain. Now, it could be for outreach purposes, maybe in certain cases you could give someone, that aliyah being called to Torah for different reasons. I don't want to get into it. It's a lot more complicated, right? But let's say in general, that person can't make the blessing. It's a blessing in vain. You can't acknowledge that. Can't acknowledge that. There's no way around it. There's no good way, no bad way around. That's it. A person can't go. They can't go. Even if they don't stay there, they stay for part of the ceremony and leave. How can they go? If you represent Torah, you can't go. Someone says, can't you find some leniency? Can't you find some leniency somewhere? That'll make it permissible to go. How can you do that? There's no leniency. Right? There is no leniency. Right? So with the other person, no. There's nothing to talk about. There's absolutely nothing to talk about. You can't do it. So, hearing the answer, the rabbi also has to be sensitive. He has to see the whole picture, of what's going on. It's got to be sensitive to the situation, but sometimes there's not much you can do. If you come up with some ingenious solution that satisfies everybody, okay. Doesn't always happen. I wouldn't say that. There are certain things they're red lines. You can't go past. And there's no way to fix it. And that person's going to get offended. Okay, they're going to get offended. What should I do? They can say, but you're offending someone by not going. So I would say, who would you rather offend? Person that's flesh and blood, even if they're family, or God? The almighty, all-powerful God. So let me tell you, you'd rather offend somebody's flesh and blood. It's not good, but if you offend them, There's nothing you can do. This is what the Torah says, you can't do it. Or would you rather look bad in God's eyes, but everyone's so happy you were there? I don't think you want to look bad in God's eyes. Yeah, in any way, shape, or form. But the repercussions could be absolutely catastrophic. Catastrophic. Nobody wants that. But as I can tell you, my own personal life, for many things, I for sure, and up until this day, have not come out smelling like a rose at all. Some people, I think, acknowledge certain things, later, that they came to certain realizations they didn't want to see before. Okay. That doesn't have to do with religion. But, there are times you'll make decisions, you won't like it. Sorry, people won't like it. I didn't do anything without asking my Rabbi, should I do this? Can I do that? If it's possible, I was looking for the bottom of the barrel. bottom of the barrel of something, is there any way? Is there any possible way it's going to cause a lot of problems? Is there any possible way? His answer was no. Very simple. He said, you just got to be strong. Whatever they say, just, go boink. He didn't necessarily say that, but he said, there's nothing to do. There's no way out of the solution. There's no way out. I had a certain question I asked him. Thank God it didn't happen. Right? It didn't come to fruition. I asked him from this side, from that side, from a different side. And he's like, I can't help you. There's nothing to do over here. There's nothing to do. Now, if he knows everything about everything, he's telling you there's no way to do it. There's no way to do it. And what are you going to do? You're going to get hammered. You get hammered. They'll yell, they'll curse. They'll curse God, and that's what religion is. And well, that's not your fault. Right? Someone once asked me this question. If that happens, they say, oh, the Torah's anti-pagan, start blaspheming. Is that your fault? That putting a stumbling block in front of somebody? The answer is no. That answer is no. They have free choice. They don't like what you have to say. They don't like what the Torah has to say. It's not my fault. You say, maybe you should never talk to them. Yeah, maybe. But you had this conversation. You said certain things, or they asked you certain things, and they come out and blaspheme. It's not my fault. You haven't had a conversation. The fact that they blaspheme, they'll get punished for that. Right? That has nothing to do with me. Right? They for sure will get punished. Right? That's not putting a stumbling block in front of someone. Putting a stumbling block in front of someone, let's say someone became a Nazarite, which you can't do today. Let's say someone came, was a Nazarite, you're talking to them, you put a bottle of wine in front of them, or grape juice. That's putting a stumbling block. Yeah, you can say, oh, they can get this anywhere else. Yeah, but you're putting it right in front of them. That's a stumbling block. Or someone asked you for directions. You gave them wrong directions. That's putting a stumbling block. If you did that on purpose, if you did it by accident, still putting a stumbling block. So what do you do if someone asks you direction, not sure, they don't have ways? You tell them you're not sure. Because you give them wrong directions, that's putting a stumbling block. And if you didn't have intention, still a stumbling block. Yeah, a bunch of questions here. Let me let me deal with them. One of the principals so shocked that he allowed the teacher to start teaching children about their heritage. He didn't want them to. That was the whole point. The whole point was the principal said, they made him sign a contract. Made him sign a document saying he's not going to proselytize. Right? So that wasn't proselytization. He's trying to educate them. I mean, they could call it proselytization also, but he asked them a question. He wanted to educate them about the holiday Shavuot. Right? Why did she make him sign this document? Yeah, she wanted to make sure he's not going to proselytize. Because it looks kind of funny. Why does someone want to teach secular kids? Obviously, to convince them of what you believe in. That's what she thought. So, there are a lot of organizations out there working with people, teaching them about Judaism. And I remember for years, there was somebody who go on college campuses. They were trying to get kids to come to classes or whatever. They banned them. That's how open-minded they are. They banned them. From doing it. That's obviously not being so open-minded, right? So, this principal, was kind of shocked. Like, what do you want to teach my kids? You want to teach them to be like you. We're not interested. He said, no, I just want to teach about Judaism in general. Become religious, don't become religious. It's not my issue. Just that, they should learn a little bit about Judaism the proper way. Right? So her defense was already up for sure. So she says, fine. I'll let you come once a week. I'll grant you once a week, but, I don't want you to go too in depth and whatever. Just, you want to teach them basic things. Teach them basic things. Might be good for them to learn basic things. Okay. Right. But yeah, her guard was up because obviously she's afraid. Right. She's afraid they'll be indoctrinated. Right. It's what everyone's afraid of. The other Orthodox are indoctrinated. No, we're giving over the truth. That's, we want to try and educate people, about the religion. I get people contact me. They don't want to convert, which is fine. They want to learn more about Judaism. Okay. Or they're Jews. They want to learn more about Judaism. Okay. Yeah. Is that indoctrination? Right? Am I trying to convince them this and that? No. Listen, if they have questions, different things, okay. You see where it goes. But in the end, the obligation is if they want to learn, good. Let them learn. But they're coming to you. You're right. This person came to them. Good. This person came to them. Okay. That's why her guard was up. That's why she made him sign a document saying you're not going to, you'll teach a little bit of this or a little bit of that or whatever, but you're not going to go so much in depth trying to convince them. Her main thing was don't convince them to be religious. You want to teach about the religion? Okay. Don't convince them to be religious. Right? That was the issue. That was the issue. Like I was mentioned, listening too much kiruv or hard musar, yeah, make them deflated. Yeah. Make them feel defeated before they started. Yeah. Listen, you got to learn musar. Everyone should learn musar some level. Right? Some people learn more, some people learn less. Right? And musar is supposed to make you feel deflated. It's supposed to make you realize what you need to do and how much better you need to do it. Right? But there are people who speak very strong. Again, I don't have an issue with it. I don't have an issue with it. If it demoralizes someone, it makes them feel like a piece of dirt, but and that's not going to inspire them to want to be better, then that kind of defeats the purpose. If it builds them up and it helps them, gives them strength, okay. There are people who want that. Again, I don't have an issue with it. I know where it comes from. But if it paralyzes people, right, and people feel that they get, more defeated than inspired, then I would say listening to people like that you shouldn't do. It has a negative effect. That's not the effect you want. You want to be inspired, but you have to understand the repercussions of what you do. Again, that's not a problem. That's very good. People have to understand, even if they don't want to hear it. They have to understand that. How far their actions go. When I hammer people on a daily basis on it, I don't know. I do it enough. People have to understand what the repercussions are, okay. But for someone to, and someone should understand where the weaknesses are and what they have to work on and that you want to live inspired and all that, that's very good. But if they get paralyzed from it, they feel they can't function and they don't want to keep Torah mitzvahs, especially if they're a Jew, that's a problem. You didn't help them. You destroyed them. You absolutely destroyed them, like this guy told you. It's destroyed. Totally destroyed. It's like, no, but I love listening to this person and I love all the hard Muslim. Yeah, but you don't want to keep anything because of what you're hearing. And you feel like less than a piece of dirt, you never get out of the third, fourth, whatever level of hell. Right? So it's not going to help you anyway. So I said, that's not helping you. That's paralyzing you. And if you're not going to keep Torah mitzvahs, that's bad. He's Jewish. You have to keep it. You have an obligation to keep it at whatever level. But if you're going to feel demoralized, you're not going to keep it. And you're going to vent all these times of how bad you feel because of what level you haven't reached and where you're stuck. That doesn't help anybody. Right? It does not. Some people, maybe it does. Some people get inspired by it. Okay, if they do, I don't have a problem with it. Even if they don't necessarily get inspired by it, as long as they don't get paralyzed from it. If they get paralyzed from it, that's a problem. And not the person speaking, right? So again, they can speak as strong as they want. It's fine. Not a problem. The question is how the person reacts. So a lot of people like it and whatever, very good. If someone gets paralyzed by it, it's bad. They're not helping the person. They'll say, well, that person's weak and needs more emunah. You're right. They need more emunah, et cetera. They need to work harder. Okay. Yeah, I'm not saying to water down what you're saying. I'm not saying that. But that's not a good fit for this person, period. But this person's not a good fit. Okay. You're going to live inspired without feeling like a piece of dirt. But as we always say, we don't reach our potential per se. We have a lot of things to do, a lot of things to work on, right? Which is true. But a person has to have a certain level of self-esteem. If you can't function because of what because you're other people speaking very strong. My Rabbi spoke very strong to me, very strong. Certainly when I need to hear it or when I didn't need to hear it. But he didn't speak strong to flatten me like a pancake and paralyze me. He spoke strongly because he said, you're better than this. One of the first things he told me. He said, you have livelihood, you can sit and learn. Don't be like one of these Mickey Mouse rabbis, sit and learn. Broke my dream in like 30 seconds. Yeah. So I told him, okay, if I'm going to listen, I'm going to make myself subservient, to the Rav. You're going to have to teach me. And that's how I got my foot in the door. Right. But at the end of the day, he said things that were strong. But he didn't say these things, strong to demoralize, to flatten me like a pancake. Just show he knows 10 times more than I'll ever know. And nothing to do with it. Like he said, don't be one of these Mickey Mouse rabbis. You're better than that. You got a lot more potential than that. Sit and learn as much as you can. Just go through everything. Be what you can be. Reach that potential, then go out like fire. That's what he told me. Right? Now, to me, that was demoralizing because I wanted to go out then. I want to go out and save the world then. But he told me, get the knowledge behind you. Yeah, but he did it in a way, built me up in many ways. Many, many ways. He also flattened me in many ways, also, but that was good. Because he was educating me. There's other people who are educators. They're not there just to flatten people to sake for the flatten people. Right? But again, other people may not take it that way. Other people may take it so to heart that they just don't function. Now, a person can say, well, that's not the majority of people. Yeah, the majority of people like this person, whatever. Okay. But even if it's a very small percentage of people and they get demoralized, they're over Torah prohibition. That's point in stumbling block. You're killing them. But they'll say, it's not true. The majority like it. Okay. Let's say. Let's say. So a lot of people can't handle, strong Musar. They're not going to change straight away. They have to work. They have to lack of Amuna. They have to work harder. And then, you're right. There are a lot of things. A lot of things. Right. And I would agree also. People don't like to hear the truth. Too bad. This is what the truth is. You don't like it, go like Google. Not everybody is destined to listen from everybody. There are people who will listen to me for that reason. That's okay. They want someone who's going to be more touchy-feely, speak more Kabbalistic terms, this and that. Okay. I don't have a problem with that. It's fine. Person should listen to people they resonate with. It makes sense to them. But a person's getting hammered, they should feel they're getting hammered out of love, not out of anger. Right? Not just to put someone down. They're doing it because they want to save them. They want to help them. But sometimes if you take it really to heart, you can say, I'm in trouble. Person's in serious trouble. Look what I did yesterday. Look what I did today. You're still stuck in the same place. How could God ever forgive me? I get this all the time. People say, yeah, I sinned here, I sinned there. How could God ever, look at me? You got to repent. You got to work on. There's a lot to work on. You can say you're never going to do it again. You have to work hard at that. I mean, there's plenty of things to work on. Plenty. You have to know what you're holding also. But if you beat yourself down so much, you won't do anything. You'll destroy yourself in the process. That's the work of the evil inclination. God doesn't want that. He doesn't want you to feel like a piece of dirt. He wants you to know what your obligation is and do the best of your ability to fulfill it. That's what he wants. He wants that more than anything else. Are there going to be stumbling blocks in front of you? Yes. Are you going to have setbacks? Yes. Are you going to react to them? But he wants you to enjoy life. How are you going to enjoy life when, you're supposed to feel like a piece of dirt and this and that? Because that's what he wants. He wants you to go in the right path to the highest level you can. Forget about what else is going on in the world. Forget about the stupidity of the world. Yeah, just focus on what you need to focus on. Don't get distracted. But isn't getting distracted fun? Aren't there a lot of fun things out there? Yeah. Plenty of fun things out there. Doesn't mean it's good for you. Right? Definitely doesn't mean it's good for you. Someone says, is it correct to say rabbinic method involves helping the student raise his own questions? Yeah. That's the whole point. That, the Gemara doesn't only bring one opinion. Gemara brings many opinions. The Gemara says also after Rish Lakish died, when Rabbi Yochanan would say something, Rish Lakish would come with more than 20 questions on what he said. And that made him sharper. Made him a lot sharper. Right? The Gemara also says that a person learns more from his students than his own learning. Because the questions they ask make them sharper. Right? It should make them sharper. Right? So here, after Rish Lakish died, a lot of people agreed with what Rabbi Yochanan had to say, and that killed him. That pretty much, short time thereafter, he died. Why did he die? Because he didn't have that same stimulation. He didn't have that same give and take. With someone who asked him 20 questions, everything he said. Right? So don't students raise their own questions and guide and learn, that's what it is. Right? That's going to guide them to learn on their own. Right? That's gonna guide them, ask the right questions, go in the right direction. But bottom line is you also have to have rabbinic guidance on that. Right? And that's the most important thing. So I see this a lot also. There are people that can have, people can have have a lot of learning underneath them, whatever, but they don't have proper rabbinic guidance. They need proper rabbinic guidance, right? They need proper direction. Everybody needs it. So you say a person has a certain level, what do they do? So yeah, it's a problem. So they'll ask people even younger than them or less than them to help clarify. Yeah. Stomach knows everything about everything. Like, who does he go to when he's got a question? He's the top rabbinic authority today. Who's he going to go to? Right? Not going to ask me. Right? Other greater people, maybe, he'll confer with. But everyone needs someone to go to. Yeah, but, that's just, get clarification. Even if he thinks he's right, though these people are less than him, right? No less than him. Someone asked, one second here. If the 6 lights are to face the center base of the mirror, what would it look like? Not sure. Not sure. If the 6 lights are face the center, I don't know. I got to think about it. Got to think about that. So when I imagine that I'm always grateful, but admonishment helps keep me learn my place. Okay, some people hate, it's brought down. People should love rebuke. People should love rebuke. How many people out there really like to be admonished and told what they do is wrong? Now, some people will say, well, that's how you're going to learn, right? Right? What if someone I'll tell you a story happened to me. I was telling over something to my Rabbi, and he said, in the middle, he said, okay, stop. He said, you misquoted it. I said, no, I didn't. I just saw it the other day. He goes, I'm telling you, you misquoted it. So he made me take out the Gemara, told me to read it, and I misquoted it. Right? It's one of the Gaonim. Whatever, I misquoted it. So he told me like this. He said, if I were to ask you how much money is in your pocket, you tell me up until the penny. Right? If you can't remember who said it, Rabbi said it, Rabbi said it, Rav Hai going, or Rav Amram going, this one, that one. You know what it shows? It shows Torah is not that important to you. And because Torah, Torah is not that important to you, I don't have an obligation to listen here. And then he said, don't forget to shut the door on the way out. Like, threw me out of his house. Someone asked me, a lot of people asked me this. They said, how'd you feel at that point? I was like, I was kind of in shock. It was like flattened me like a pancake because I misquoted something. Okay. But he taught me a lesson. Right? He taught me a very fundamental lesson. He's right. What's the fundamental lesson? If I ask anybody now, and you can ask yourselves, everyone's going to know their own answer, right? And that is, okay, if you got a wallet, how much money more or less do you have in it? Person knows. Person knows. Why does the person know how much money is in the pocket? That's important to them. It's important to know how much money is in your pocket. Everyone will say, money's not everything, but it's always good to have in your pocket. It's always good to have around, but it's not everything. Okay. Now, you learned something that Rashi says. You learned something in the Torah, but you can't remember. You don't remember. Oh, maybe it was said here, maybe it was said there. Right? Now, so the person has to work on their memory? Sure. A lot of things we forget? Yeah, that's why you have to always review. You have to constantly review so you know it like the back of your, so you know it like this, like the back of your hand. Very good. Yeah. That's what's important. All these other things don't mean anything. It's retaining Torah to know what to do in the right way. See, that's why I have to constantly review. So my Rabbi said, matter of factly, he hammered me on this point, but he said matter of factly, he said, this shows Torah cannot be that important to you. Because you remember who said what. Because he made the point, if you know how much money's in your pocket, that's what's important to you. You can't tell me Rashi said this or he didn't say it or whatever. Last week's parsha or whatever. That's not so important to you. Big life lesson. Big life lesson. And he's right. Because the things that we think are important don't matter. Things that we remember don't matter. Chaim Kanievsky, of blessed memory. There were street names they didn't know, other things they didn't know, because it wasn't important to him to remember. Torah was important for him to remember. So other things that were totally less important, he didn't care about. Since he didn't care about it, he didn't remember. He wouldn't remember what the store in the corner was, the fruit store in the corner. He didn't remember the name of it because it wasn't important to him. What's important, you have to review, so you should know it very well. The people know all kinds of things that have no relevance to anything. Yeah, they remember a lot of things about things that don't matter. What's the only thing that matters in this world? Torah. Whether you're a Jew or non-Jew, that's the most important thing. Even for non-Jews, there's other things, I would say, they're not obligated, to keep them. It's good. It's a moral imperative. Yeah, it's a moral imperative. Knowing Torah very well, what it says, is a huge thing. And if you're an expert in other things, okay, right? Let's say forget about what your job is, whatever. Let's say, a person knows, certain things about other things. Sports, entertainment, like all the most important things in the world, right? And they know all these things about movies and different things, whatever. That doesn't matter. Yeah, but we're going to remember that a lot more than we remember what Torah says. Torah, you got to work at. Torah is something you have to suffer over to get, to acquire. Well, it's a very hard thing to acquire. Olam Haba, another very hard thing to acquire. Well, we'll get back to Torah. Torah is something you got to focus on all the time. All the time. Everything else doesn't matter. But what doesn't matter is fun. It's not like what doesn't matter is just like, I would never be interested in that anyway. And, what a waste of time and this and that. No, there are plenty of things that a person get into that don't really matter, but they enjoy it. Yeah, they enjoy it. Plenty of people, sports is a good example. Plenty of people, really into sports, know a lot of things about, different athletes and statistics and, all kinds of things. Does that really matter? Does that really matter? It doesn't matter. When a person dies, it's not going to help you. That knowledge is not going to help you at all. But people get caught up in it because it's interesting, because it's fun. I can sit back and veg. I don't have to think and get all excited. It doesn't help a person. Someone asked, did Aaron actually physically lift to wave them? I don't think so. I don't think, and even if he did, the menorah is probably so heavy, right? And all that, God probably helped him if he had to. Right? But he didn't lift it, as far as I understand. Yeah, any other, let me see, any other questions here? Again, knowledge has to be respected. Torah knowledge, right, has to be respected. Now, there is knowledge that the non-Jews have, right? The Gemara says, if non-Jews say they have knowledge, you can believe them. If they say they have Torah, you don't believe them, right? For sure, you don't believe them. They don't have Torah, right? But someone has real Torah knowledge that's used in the right way that has to be respected, right? Like the Gemara says. You have, it says these stupid Babylonians would stand up for Sefer Torah. They would stand up when the Torah came into the room instead of standing up for someone who represents the Torah. Right? If a Biddick scholar walked in, they wouldn't stand up. So the Gemara calls them, stupid Babylonians because they have respect for what the Torah says, for the Torah scroll itself, but they won't respect the people who envelop, what the Torah says. So their knowledge should be respected. Now, again, some people have greater knowledge, some people, less knowledge. Doesn't mean they're infallible. Doesn't mean they can't make mistakes. They make serious mistakes. Okay. Right. Then you can't listen to them. And not everyone has the ability to be able to, certain people they don't want to listen to. They have to listen to somebody that, they can handle. If they can handle someone speaking very strong, good. They want someone more touchy-feely, okay. It's their choice. But people have to understand clear as day. There's a right way and a wrong way. People have to understand that not everybody, when it says that we have to love our fellow Jew, can't hate a Jew in your heart. Doesn't mean you love everybody. King Solomon, King Solomon says it's time to love, time to hate. You can hate the person. You can hate the thing that they do. You can't necessarily hate the person. Right? But there is a time, there is a time to hate what people do. I can hate what people do. And King David himself says in the book of Psalms, King David says, I love all those that love you. I fight against all those that hate you. Those that hate God, fight against God. You have to fight against them. Not physically, right? But you have to fight against their ideals and what they stand for. And knock them out, so to speak. But again, that's if someone's, either misrepresenting the Torah or coming against Torah. But someone's going to come out and say, God loves everyone. It's not true. He wants everyone to do what he says. He wants everyone to go in that, in that right path. And the people who don't, they spit in God's face. Not that, they'll have a lesser portion of the world to come. Who says they're going to get there? Right? So it says, you'll have a bigger portion than me, but, I also have a portion. Because it says that every what do you call it? Before every chapter in Pirke Avos that every Jew has a portion of the world to come. So I said, you learn tractate Sanhedrin at the end about it, where it says all these different people and groups lost the portion of the world to come. Not the fact that you're going to get there. You have to reach a certain level. Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, you got to reach a certain level. You don't reach that certain level, you don't get there. Right? You get everything in this world, you won't get anything in the next one. Right? That's the way. That's right. That's the way it works. You won't get anything. Right? It's not a question. It's not a question of, I have a small portion. It's not a question of that. Because who said you're going to get there? And why would God give you a portion? Why would God give you a portion of the world to come if you don't do anything to deserve it? Right? If you don't prepare Shabbos, you don't eat on Shabbos. Right? It's very simple. You want to eat food, you don't prepare it, you're not going to eat it. Right? It's going to be no food. In the world to come, same thing. You don't prepare yourself in this world, who said you get anything? Right? You shouldn't get anything. Right? You shouldn't get anything in in the world to come. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Someone here asks, to do if the men who are purified to serve. I don't think so. Not that I know of. What do I look to find someone with Torah knowledge versus frauds? So you have to know. You have to ask people in the know who are, true frauds. But again, the problem is someone who outrightly comes against Torah, not to listen to them. Right? It's very clear. They have an agenda. Who are the people to look out for? People who sound very smooth, right? Who, seem to have Torah knowledge, but they veer off. Plenty of them out there. Plenty of them out there. They're very savvy, very politically savvy, right? As well. They may have, they potentially have, thousands and thousands, of followers, but again, that's all lie, it's all fraud. Right? So, they ask, is this person legitimate to listen to? Is that one not, or whatever? Right? Then, you have to ask. You have to ask who fits that, criteria. But there are plenty out there. Unfortunately, there are plenty out there misleading people. It has nothing to do with, they're going to want more views than you do, and this and that. It has nothing to do with it. Lies sell. Lies sell. People like, what can I say? Somebody says there's, nothing wrong with homosexuality. Even if they got thousands of followers, it's a problem. That's heresy, right? What do you do with, Leviticus chapter 18, which I'll get to one day, right? What do you do with that? So I know the Orthodox will be upset with me for saying this. Yeah, because that's heresy. I don't care what Kabbalah you quote. I don't care what Hasidus you quote. Yeah, it's heresy. Somebody like that you can't listen to. You throw what they say in the garbage. It's a danger. I understand why people speak against these people in a very strong way. It's a danger. They're misleading people. 100%. They're misleading people. So, unfortunately, there's a lot of fraud out there. You can find someone with a lot of Torah knowledge and also be a fraud. Right? That's the whole point. You can have a certain level of knowledge. Which I certainly have a problem with. People could be 10 times more knowledgeable than me. That's not an issue. Right? That's not the issue over here. The issue is what they say isn't true. Right? And that's one of the things most people know. One of my pet peeves. I can't stand people that lie and misrepresent. Right? They totally misrepresent. That's a serious problem. You have to know who they are. Right? If anyone has any doubts, they can ask. They can certainly ask. I'll say either yes or no. But at the end of the day, this is the problem. Someone here says, keep hearing Gentiles say that I mean, and that Jews are mean. Why are Jews mean? Why are they mean? Maybe we're cruel because we slaughter animals the way we do. But that's also anti-Semitism. They say that you're mean because of what's going on in Gaza. They'll say, oh, it's genocide. Right? And they're killing innocent people. What do you want? They use them as human shields. They'll say we're the worst people because, exactly that, but they don't know the facts. And even if they kill innocent people, right? It's just a rescue mission. They rescued four captives. They were totally under fire, and they needed a lot of firepower to get out, and some civilians were killed. Yeah. So say, you shouldn't kill the civilians. Well, civilians are in that area being used as human shields. Because they're being used as human shields, they got killed. It's not their fault. Right? But they're using them as human shields. So what do you want? So say that's cruel. That's genocide. That's killing people. It's killing people when when you don't need to. Any other nation in the world, that wouldn't be a problem. Even if they kill thousands to get these people. So what are you supposed to do? Anyone say that in Iraq? No. Anyone say that by Assad killed 600,000 of his own people? With gas them. Anyone say anything? No. They don't say anything, in Rwanda. All those Hutus killed the Tutsis or vice versa. Anyone say anything? We're trying to be as humane as possible. Yeah. They're going to be casualties. It's the way it is. But that's being mean. Yeah. They could also say, we're cruel because we killed their savior. They're Christians. Okay. But he deserved to die. He absolutely deserved to die. So that's being mean. That's what I would say. Someone asks, if you ask specific rabbi, who you have made your Rav to rabbinic guidance on? Yeah. I own a sense bound to doing what he should decide to do. I'll say like this. If you ask a question, a halachic question, you can't shop around for answers. Oh, you don't like what this rabbi said? You go somewhere else. That you can't do. That the Gemara says explicitly you're not allowed to do. Now, if the person made a mistake, and they made a mistake in something that's obvious, then yeah, that can be overruled. But you're not allowed to go for a lenient opinion. Right? Now, if you ask them an opinion question, philosophical question, yeah, you get other opinions on that. That's not held in stone. But if you ask a halachic opinion, can I do this, or is this permitted or not? Right? So they say it's permitted. It's going to cause you problems. So you have to do what they said. You can't go somewhere else. It's going to give you, you think you're going to get a better opinion from. Right? Now, and if you don't listen after asking their ruling, that's a problem. That's prohibition. Right? It's a rabbinic prohibition. Right? I don't think it's a Torah prohibition. It's a rabbinic prohibition, but it comes out clear. The Gemara says you're not allowed to do it. What are the negative ramifications? You asked someone their opinion. You didn't listen. You went somewhere else, or whatever, and it can certainly have a negative effect. I'm not going to say you're going to lose livelihood over it or other things, or it can have a totally negative effect. Yeah, this rabbi tells you, okay, you're not allowed to go to this thing. Let's see. You end up going, everyone's happy you go, but it can have other ramifications later. It sets up bad precedent, right? Let's say, right? It sets up bad precedent. Yeah, that definitely can. A person has a nip in the bud. You don't want people coming back and say, "Oh, you're wishy-washy." You know, you did this before. You're okay with it. Now you're not okay with it. Yeah, it's a problem. You got to be strong across the board. You don't want to be caught that way. You want to be consistent. Because the first thing we're going to say is, "Oh, what do you know about Judaism? What do you know about this? You don't know anything." It's a knee-jerk reaction. But at the end of the day, they're right. So you have to say, "I'm a work in progress. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I'm not holding there." Okay. But I would say that at some point you have to get there. Right. So if a person says they're a work in progress, they need to be better, this and that, they're being honest. The person's not going to make fun of you because of that. They respect that. Right. But if you set a bad precedent, right? Let's say you went to something you really shouldn't have gone to. And then, you come back to a similar situation. Come back to a similar situation. And what happens? You end up saying, "No, I'm not doing this, but you did it before." Okay, but I'm not doing it now. You look bad. You're inconsistent. So you want to be as consistent as possible, even from the very beginning. But we can't always do that. So if a person gets caught and they say, "Yeah, I used to do this, now you don't do it, or you should be doing it, whatever," the simple answer is, "You're right, I should be doing it." But you have to say, "I'm a work in progress." That's an honest answer. You're a work in progress, you need to be better, and that's what you need to do. Yeah. Someone says, one second. Civilians were kidnapping, and yeah, you're right. Right? They were selling hostages to Hamas, different things, very good. Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares. We have it coming, we deserve it because of all the things we've been doing, blah, blah, blah. That's the right way to fight. If the tide was turned the other way, it'd be totally different. Nobody would stand for it. Any other group, no one would ever tolerate it. Nobody. What do you see beyond the shadow about? Jews are different. Jews are different. They're held to a higher level of responsibility. But again, this doesn't even make sense. Everything that's been done doesn't make sense. Because we're held to a different reality than everybody else. Right? That's the bottom line. Again, America went into Iraq, killed tens of thousands of people. Innocent civilians. Anyone say anything? And again, if this was Texas and Mexico, right? Mexico was shooting missiles. They did this in Texas. They flattened them like a pancake. Kill everybody there. No more Taco Bell, no more burritos. It's over. In fact, it happened in Israel. We held to a higher standard or a different standard. What are you supposed to do? You got human shields all over the place. People are going to die. Yeah, these civilians are not innocent. That's also true. We're not going to get into politics. That's true. Right? I'm not going to disagree with that. Right? Nobody cares, though. Why nobody cares? Because this is what anti-Semitism is. This is what it is. It's not rational. It's not rational. Most people say, most people with college campuses and other places saying, from the river to the sea, that means Jews should be annihilated. If you would say that against any other ethnic group, a number of them would burn down every city in that country. Calling for the annihilation of their people? Only by Jews, it's okay. Not even necessarily against the law, even though some places are trying to make it a law against. But it's not even against the law, for goodness sakes. That might change, but that's crazy. Because you wouldn't say it against any other group. Any other group, if you call the race, you'd be tied up. They'd string you up like nothing. Burn down every city. You have a right to annihilate us? Yeah. Let me see here. How do individual make someone your roast? You have to feel comfortable who they are. Right? You have to see. Not everyone fits that criteria. at all. Right? First of all, you have to see who their Rav is, who they go to for advice. But you have to see, you have to listen to what they say. They give classes online, see what they say, see if you feel comfortable with what they say and who they are. Get to know them, ask them questions. See, not every person's the right fit. It's not an easy thing to say or to find. Right? We spoke, a while ago about, a person got an obligation to find themselves a mentor. Find themselves a rope, even. It costs money because it's important to get guidance. It doesn't necessarily, it could be someone on your level. Right? It doesn't mean someone's like so much light years, beyond you. But simple explanation is, you find someone who's got knowledge that can guide you. Now, even if they have the knowledge, doesn't mean it's the right fit. You got to see personality-wise also. Right? It may not be a good fit. Depends. Right? But you have to see personality-wise. Some people love what people say. Some people hate what people say. They just don't resonate with what they say. I'm not saying they found mistakes and they think you're this or whatever. I'm not talking about that. But you have to see. Right? You have to see, do they have the knowledge? That's the first thing. What level of knowledge do they have? Then you have to see, is it a good fit personality-wise? Can they give guidance in what you need to get guidance on? So not everyone fits that bill. Yeah. Someone can't show up rabbis. It's true. But I would say, the rabbis have different expertise in different things. It's very rare to find someone's got expertise in everything, right? Like I found over the years. But, again, someone for you to listen to has to be in your eyes like an angel. That doesn't make them perfect. It for sure does not make them perfect, right? But they have to be in your eyes like an angel. So if you feel this person's like an angel, you can listen to them. So yeah, you should go to them for advice. But rabbi shopping over here means that, if you have one rabbi question, a halachic question, you can't shop around for other answers, right? If what they say is egregious and totally wrong, different issue. But, if not, you don't rabbi shop in general. Someone has a purchasing Derech Hashem, keeps just other Arikavim like Sefer Yetzirah, meditation, Kabbalah, should I wait? Yeah, Sefer Yetzirah I wouldn't touch. Sefer Yetzirah is a book in Kabbalah I wouldn't touch. Right? Translated, they say it's a book very, very much deep in Kabbalah. And they say that he died young because he put that out there in English. He's brilliant. I have nothing against him. He's unbelievably brilliant in so many things, right? But these things, yeah, Derech Hashem is good. I wouldn't go through. Meditation's probably not bad. The book on meditation is probably all right. But anything else that's like has to do with Sefer Yetzirah or Kabbalah, I wouldn't touch. I wouldn't touch. It's not, it's probably not for a long time, if ever. Is what I would say. Someone asks, okay, looking at the history of Israel, it's like Canaanites were there just before our people. We're part of Canaan. Yeah, we're part of Canaan. Canaan was the land of Israel. That's what I mentioned, right? That's what the Torah says, right? Canaan was, what Israel is. So we're part of Canaan or Mesopotamia. So again, where did everyone come from? That area, right? What they call the Fertile Crescent. Right? It was like Palestinians were water people prior to invading Israel. They never invaded Israel. They were here. They were different countries. They're part of different countries, even though they might have resided here, but they were never one entity, right? Don't make that mistake and listen to the propaganda. They were never one entity, ever. These people. They were nomads. No different than Bedouins today, right? They were nomads. Never formed an entity. So therefore, they were never a people. Right? They were absolutely never a people. They were like squatters here. That's what they were. Mark Twain came in the late 1800s, right? Late 1890s. There's nobody here. There's nobody here. There was a time in the English, okay. There are people from Jordan, there are people from Lebanon, some other places. Yeah, but then there's no one entity. They came from different places. I don't know. I want to say that they were prior sailors. I don't know. I don't know about that. They came from different countries. Right? Essentially, they came from different countries. Um, this group of gypsies. I don't know about gypsies. They lived there, right? They lived there. They were again. They weren't an entity. So what were they? I would say they're more like Bedouins. I call them. I don't necessarily call them gypsies. I don't know. I don't know if I'd necessarily use that term, but they were like squatters there. Yeah, but they were never anything. They were never a group, never a unified group by any stretch. They're a hybrid of a lot of different, a lot of different nations that were here. That lived here until they attacked and got thrown out. They want to destroy the God conscious of the world. Yeah, listen, their whole thing, is to make war against the world because they don't believe in Allah. It's either believe in us or die. Yeah, that's for the Christians, that's for Jews, that's for that's for everyone. You read the Quran; it's a very violent book, very, very violent book. I don't claim to be an expert in any way, shape, or form, but at the end of the day, their goal is to take over the world, right? And many people said, if you don't deal with Hamas now, it's going to be all over the place. It's true. Israel's only the first; they'll be everywhere, right? Trying to take over everywhere, right? That's the goal. That's the goal of this way of thought. All right, is just to destroy everything in their way and make the whole world a caliphate. Right, that's how you pronounce it. Right, to make it a Muslim place all over. Yeah. Um, someone asked if since I have a degree in history, have I written any history books? Nope. Um, it's ironic there. I mean, there are books out there. I think Rabbi should be well, right? The main Jewish historian of our day. He also wrote a book on ancient history, and modern history. So, history of the state of Israel. The facts are there. Anyone who wants them. Yeah. It could be someone, I don't think it's going to be me, but, someone should write a book about the facts, the state of Israel, founding the state of Israel, just get the facts out there against the lies. But very hard to convince the mass. The lies have been out there for so long. Someone come out a book and set the record straight. There are people out there giving over information. Who's really listening? All these people coming out, protesting against, Israel, a whole bunch of thugs. They don't know anything. They don't care about knowing anything. They're not interested in the facts. Go put out all this information to Christians and show them how bad Christianity is and what the lies are. They're not interested. They're not interested in the information, right? So there's people out there. The world is run by the media. You think the media wants to make Israel not oppressors? No. Media's left wing. They're interested in destroying Israel. That's what they're interested in. There's no question. There are some right-wing groups out there, that are trying to set the record straight. Okay. They're having a very hard time. They're having a very, very hard time. Why are they having a hard time? Because, again, everything that the media is saying, all the poison, everyone's swallowing all the poison. There's an article earlier that, it's what happened in Germany also, and every other place. Jews rose to prominence, then they got ostracized and got thrown out. And anti-Semitism went up the gazoo. That's what's going on now. Right? 100% that's what's going on now. Not logical. Not logical by any stretch. Someone there mentions, yeah, they read the Quran, it's full of violence. Yeah. They don't hide. They don't hide what they say. Their goal is, again, destroy the world or make the world under their dominance. That's their goal. Right? They made that very clear. So that's what you're fighting against. And they're all the same. There are no moderates. They're all the same. And they're very significant minorities around the world, right? Especially in Europe. right, Muslim minorities, and you're going to have serious problems from them, all right, till the end of days. There's no way around. You're going to have serious problems with it. By the way, the Philistines have nothing to do with the Palestinians, quote unquote. Totally nothing to do with it, right? There's no connection. No connection whatsoever to them. Somewhere says, I read somewhere, this Muslim Muhammad guy was a Jew. No, I don't think he was a Jew. Certainly not a Jew. The Rambam calls him Isha Meshuga, calls him the crazy man. I don't even call him crazy man, he was illiterate. Totally illiterate, totally illiterate also. But again, total false prophet. No one ever saw him do any of his miracles. Like Spy JC, the same thing. But this book is it's extremely violent, and they got all kinds of lies in it. It's like any other false book. Right, have all kinds of lies there. But again, who's perpetuating the lies? It's the media. The media is making it clear what the lies are, and they're perpetuating them. So once a person's been fed all these lies, it's very hard to change it. Very, very hard. Very, very hard to change it. Scribes were also Torah teachers, right? As described, true. It's one dependent on the other. No. Person doesn't have to be a scribe to be a teacher. You have to have knowledge. Being a scribe, you have a certain level of knowledge. Doesn't make you a rabbi, though. Right? Ezra was a scribe. There are great people that were scribes that were great rabbinic authorities, but it doesn't mean there's a connection between the two in general. Yeah, so there's a Codex Judaic. I don't know if it's worth very much. Yeah, let me see, any other questions here? Yeah, any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Saturday, 2:30 Eastern time, 9:30 Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on the Torah portion of the week. I'm very behind the Ethics of Our Fathers, Q&As, Book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wish everyone a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, depending where you are.